one of the things I repeat in the classes I facilitate over and over is the only thing you cannot change and make lighter is the thing that you have to keep hidden in secret, or the thing that you have to avoid looking at. Or when I say have to, this is a point of view that we take.
Yeah.
The only thing you can't change is what you keep hidden or secret, or the thing you avoid looking at. And some of the work that I've been doing lately with people is really dynamically around this area of what are you avoiding that you don't have to? Because we wouldn't avoid it unless we thought we had to for some reason. So let's go back to your conversation of I can only be as great as my willingness to expose myself to what I've called my darkness. And then the other element of what I found is everything that we've defined as our darkness is actually a refraction of our light. In other words, we call it darkness because of judgment. We call it darkness because, oh, if I do this, it will mean this. But these are all programs that we've learned. It functions like a prismatic prison, if you will, where these, if you could imagine being in a cell of all these different prisms, what comes in is rather than the white light of awareness, let's say, or rather than the direct experience and energetic awareness, it gets fractured and reflected and refracted. So by the time it gets to us, it's a jumbled mess. And the only thing we can hope to do to create clarity is to try to take it all and judge it into one thing. And our point of view tends to become, I'll either receive it or I'll reject it and avoid it. And that's what sticks us.
When you say it sticks us, you mean we start believing these thoughts that aren't true, and we don't progress, we don't increase our capacity, we don't have any even understanding. Maybe we have the desire, but we're stuck even with the desire there. Did I hear you correctly?
Absolutely. And that right there is, for the seekers of the world, the people that are listening to this or watching this, that right there is one of the most detrimental aspects. I have the desire, but I don't have the way of navigating out of this morass into something that is the lightness, the joy, the connection, the whatever you want to call it, that I know should be possible.
It's interesting you said the word should, and I want to push back, but respectfully, whenever I hear the word should, whenever I hear the word should, it always compresses me. And I find myself saying it here and there. I'm not perfect. And newsflash, maybe Dr. Dain isn't perfect either, right? You've done a lot of work, but this human experience that we live, the way we articulate, the way we understand through word, gosh, man, there's so many things that just cannot be fully understood by word. They have to be felt. And so when I heard you say that word should, it brought that up in me, like, okay, what do you mean I should? So what did you mean by that when you said should?
Well, I'm so glad you brought it up, because this is exactly how we create our lives, is with words like that create a thing. And for me, that's basically, if you want to call it a habit, because the way that I phrased it for so long was, I know this should be possible. Yes. And in actuality, what's really going on, and one of the things that can really help is if you try on if you notice something like this, like should, for example, try on two different versions. Like, okay, what would be greater than that? And so for me, if I say, I know, if we know what should be possible, or if we know what actually is possible that we're not yet choosing. Mm-hmm. And for me, there's so much more lightness in we know what is possible. But one of the things that I've also learned to do is to do my best to speak to what people can hear from the place they are. And a lot of us are in that should mentality, and especially in that area of possibilities, where a lot of people, and one of the things I love about this work around the world called Access Consciousness is people go from knowing it should be possible to knowing it is possible. And then that's one element of it. And then the next part is, okay, then what's it going to take to create it? And that's what we have the tools for, so many tools, like over 8,000 tools. But it's
8,000 tools.
Oh yeah, we actually have more than that. I say 8,000 because saying more than that makes you sound like you're a lunatic. But yeah.
Metaphysical and emotional and consciousness tools all wrapped in one tool belt.
Yeah. And a 3-day class, like I just facilitated a 3-day class called what I call the energetic synthesis of being. Now, I call it that partially because nobody knows what the heck that means. So they can't really have much of a projection or expectation. So we can go wherever everybody's willing to go. But the transformation that occurs in a 3-day access class is unlike anything I've ever experienced. And it's partially the tools, but it's partially the concept, which is not that this reality is all there is, and not that resisting this reality will get you beyond this reality, but not resisting it, embracing all of it, which is where all the fun stuff is, like ice cream and money and nice cars and nice people and, wonderful bodily experiences. Those are all in this reality. And we've been taught for years, you need to reject it. It's like, no, you just need to not be owned by it. So there's that. But then it's like, what really is the beauty of access consciousness is this beyond reality perspective that we have that consciousness gives you. And we don't claim to have a corner on consciousness because that would definitely not be consciousness. Okay. But we do have a definition of it, which is where everything exists and nothing is judged.
Just letting that land for a moment. And nothing is judged. So if nothing is judged in that space of consciousness, which is beautiful, I really, it was very peaceful. Like my whole nervous system felt peace when you said that. So I understand. I know that space because it comes into my life more on the regular now than ever. Of course, there's moments where it doesn't. But in that space, I wonder from curiosity, how can we be in that space and not be in fear of it being gone, not be in fear of losing it? I think we've all gone to, maybe satsangs or, workshops. I mean, it's been 20 years of me seeking for the truth.
Yeah.
And I felt this wave of knowingness that you're sharing, that I can feel, that I know. And then I also paradoxically fall into the trap of being afraid that will be gone, or being in fear and reaction that knowingness will be gone. How do you deal with that personally? And how do you teach from love in that space?
I can understand and relate to that one very well. And what I've realized is it's a matter of being willing to be present. So let me try to put some perspective on that perspective, which is when we're being that space. So if we can recognize that our being is lightness embodied, let's say, okay, our being, which is why what's true for you as a being always makes you lighter, and a lie always makes you heavier. And we live in a world in which we've been taught that the heaviness and twistedness of a lie is something we must address because it has so much angsty, twisted energy to it. But in actuality, we need to acknowledge that's a lie so we can get back to the lightness of us. So in this case, the idea that you could lose it, number one, is a lie. But here's one of the other things that I am very interested in facilitation, but also my own personal journey, which is saying something like that, it's a lie. Well, that helps. I can know that in this moment, but then, okay, cool. Now what? It's a lie. Now what? And that is where the rubber actually meets the road. So in a practical way, we need to recognize that when we get to that lightness, and, it's so interesting because as you're speaking, I'm receiving, when you talk about going to a particular event or experiencing something that's so beautiful and you're like, oh my God, I might lose this. Well, let's acknowledge first that exuberant, it's almost like all of your molecules are vibrating and enlightening, getting more alive and lighter, and you have a sense of not needing to separate. You look at your relationships differently. You look at that person that's so close to you and you're like, oh my God, I care for you even more than I thought I did. You have a sense of everything is okay. Well, what we need to acknowledge first is that's our very being. What we've just been gifted and glimpsed is an awareness of us as we actually are. And no one can take that away. Now, having said that, then let's look at what's after that. Because when we have that, The world we live in tells us that if you get someplace happy, you better hold on to it and solidify it. And guess what that does? It kills it, because that space is meant to move into greater space. That consciousness is meant to become greater, because consciousness is like a shark. It never stops moving. And so when we artificially try to put a box around it so we can have it, so we can hold it, so we can define it, so we can understand it, so we can repeat it, we're doing it like, my precious. And what happens in that, rather than acknowledging this is an experience of my being and asking a question, how does it get any better than this? What else is possible I've never considered? How many more, what are the infinite possibilities here? How much more fun can I have? How much more joy? How much more consciousness and how much more me? Instead, what we do, because a question always opens up a door to another possibility or universe of possibilities we've never seen. Our conclusion that I have to hold on to it or I'm going to lose it, this is where the judge, and that's actually a judgment. Any decision, any judgment, any conclusion you come to means nothing that doesn't match that can come into your world. We have so much power that when we choose to judge, we go, this is what's going on. And so now we've just created, without realizing it, a reality in which and we could have many versions of points of view here, but I'll just give one. I need to hold on to this, otherwise it's going to go away. Guess what happened? It's already going away, because your point of view is I need to structure it so it doesn't go away. But the very thing you are experiencing is the destructuring that is allowing you to perceive your being.
If you like that clip, click the one that's on the screen now, and I promise you, you'll enjoy it just the same, if not more.